Have you ever looked at your bank account at the end of the month and wondered where all your money went? Maybe you worked overtime. Maybe you picked up extra shifts. Maybe you even got a raise recently. Yet somehow, after paying the bills, covering everyday expenses, and trying to save what you can, it feels like you're standing in exactly the same place financially. And that's frustrating. Because most people assume that if they work harder and earn more money, their financial problems will eventually disappear. But for millions of people, that's not what happens. Their income goes up, yet their financial stress stays exactly the same. Here's the thing. The problem isn't always how much money you're making. Sometimes the problem is where that money is going. Not into obvious mistakes, not into reckless spending, not into luxury lifestyles. Instead, it disappears through purchases that seem completely normal. Things society tells us are smart, responsible, or even necessary. Small expenses that don't feel important individually but quietly drain thousands of dollars over time. Look, some of the biggest financial traps today are hidden inside everyday spending habits. And because everyone else is doing the same thing, almost nobody stops to question them. So in this video, we're going to break down 10 more things that are no longer worth your money, and why avoiding them could be one of the smartest financial decisions you make this year. My name is Demas, and I spend way too much time thinking about money. If you're someone who feels stuck financially, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Now, before we get started, I want to make one thing very clear. This video is not about being cheap. It's not about cutting every enjoyable thing out of your life. It's not about never taking vacations, never buying something nice for yourself, or living on rice and beans for the next 20 years. Because that's not what financial freedom is about. Financial freedom is about making intentional decisions with your money instead of emotional ones. Here's what most people don't realize. The biggest financial mistakes are rarely dramatic. They're rarely the kind of mistakes that instantly destroy your finances overnight. Instead, they're usually small decisions repeated over and over again for years. A subscription you barely use. A purchase made out of boredom. An upgrade that wasn't necessary. A monthly payment that seemed affordable at the time. Individually, none of these choices seem like a big deal. But together, they create a pattern. And over time, that pattern can become the difference between building wealth and staying financially stuck. Look, the goal isn't to spend less money. The goal is to get more value from every dollar you spend. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Let's start with something almost everyone owns, a smartphone. Think about how often people upgrade their phones today. Every year, major tech companies release a new model with a slightly better camera, a slightly faster processor, or a few new features that most people will rarely use. Yet millions of consumers line up to replace devices that are still working perfectly fine. Here's the thing. Technology companies have become incredibly good at making you feel like your current phone is outdated, even when it isn't. A phone that was considered amazing 2 years ago suddenly feels old the moment a newer version appears. But here's what most people don't realize. The gap between smartphone generations has become much smaller than it was a decade ago. You're often paying hundreds, sometimes over $1,000, for improvements that barely change your daily life. Now add extended warranties into the equation. Retailers love selling them because they're one of the highest margin products in the store. And why do people buy them? Fear. The fear that something might break. The fear of unexpected costs. The fear of losing money. Psychologists call this loss aversion. We naturally feel the pain of a potential loss more strongly than the pleasure of an equivalent gain. As a result, people spend extra money protecting themselves from risks that statistically may never happen. Look, wealthy people don't avoid risk completely. They manage it differently. Instead of paying for protection on every purchase, they build emergency funds and keep cash reserves available when unexpected expenses occur. Over time, that approach often leaves them with far more money than constantly paying for warranties and unnecessary upgrades. Next up, let's talk about 2 expenses that quietly drain money from millions of bank accounts every single month: gym memberships and subscriptions. Now, don't get me wrong. There's absolutely nothing wrong with joining a gym or paying for services that genuinely improve your life. The problem begins when those expenses continue long after you've stopped using them. Think about what happens every January. People feel motivated. They set ambitious fitness goals. They sign up for premium gym memberships with impressive facilities, personal training options, and luxury amenities. For the first few weeks, everything goes according to plan. Then life happens. Work gets busy. Schedules become complicated. Motivation fades, but the monthly charge keeps showing up. Here's what most people don't realize. The gym wasn't the investment. The habit was. A $20 gym membership you use consistently is far more valuable than a $200 membership you visit twice a month. And the exact same thing happens with subscriptions, streaming platforms, music services, cloud storage, premium apps, software memberships, $10 here, $15 there, $20 somewhere else. Individually, they seem harmless. But together, they create a financial blind spot. This is where it gets really interesting. People carefully compare prices before making large purchases, yet they rarely review recurring charges that automatically leave their account every month. And because these expenses are small, they become invisible. Look, a single subscription won't ruin your finances, but dozens of forgotten subscriptions can quietly cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars every year. The real danger isn't the amount. It's how easily you stop noticing it. Now let's talk about something that costs people far more money than they realize. Financing things that lose value. A perfect example is furniture. Walk into almost any furniture store and you'll immediately see signs promoting easy financing. No money down. 0% interest. Only $49 per month. At first glance, it sounds like a great deal. After all, who wouldn't want a brand new couch, dining table, or bedroom set without paying everything up front? But here's the thing. The moment you start focusing on the monthly payment instead of the total cost, you've changed the way you think about money. Instead of asking, is this worth $3,000? People start asking, can I afford $49 per month? And those are two completely different questions. This same mindset often appears when buying a home. Many people don't buy the house they need. They buy the largest house a lender says they can afford. Now you might be thinking, isn't a house an investment? Sometimes. But that doesn't automatically make a bigger house a better financial decision. A larger home usually means higher mortgage payments, higher property taxes, higher insurance costs, higher utility bills, and more maintenance expenses. Here's what most people don't realize. Every extra dollar tied up in housing is a dollar that can't be invested elsewhere. Look, wealthy people often view purchases through the lens of opportunity cost. They understand that money spent in one area can't be used in another. The goal isn't to buy the cheapest furniture or the smallest house possible. The goal is to avoid paying premium prices for things that don't meaningfully improve your financial future. Because the biggest financial mistakes often come disguised as affordable monthly payments. Now let's talk about something that influences financial decisions far more than most people realize: the desire for status. Look, there's nothing wrong with enjoying nice things. A quality watch, designer clothing, a luxury car, or high-end accessories can absolutely bring enjoyment to your life. The problem starts when the primary reason for buying them is to impress other people. Here's what most people don't realize. Many status purchases aren't actually about the product itself. They're about the feeling that comes with owning it. The feeling of success. The feeling of belonging. The feeling that others will see you differently. But that feeling usually doesn't last very long. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. Humans naturally get used to improvements in their lifestyle. What feels exciting today eventually becomes normal. That expensive watch becomes just another watch. That luxury car becomes just another car. But the money you spent is gone forever. And this connects directly to another dangerous financial habit: lottery thinking. The belief that one lucky break will change everything. One perfect stock. One viral business idea, one cryptocurrency investment, one massive opportunity. Now you might be thinking, but people do get rich that way. Sometimes they do, but those stories are rare, and they're often the ones that receive all the attention. What you don't see are the thousands of people who took similar risks and failed. This is where it gets really interesting. Most wealthy people didn't build their wealth through one extraordinary event. They built it through ordinary actions repeated consistently over many years. Saving, investing, avoiding unnecessary debt, living below their means. Look, real wealth is usually boring, but boring strategies often produce the most reliable results. This next point might be one of the most misunderstood concepts in personal finance. You'll often hear financial experts say, invest as early as possible. And generally speaking, that's excellent advice. The earlier you start investing, the more time compound growth has to work in your favor. Over long periods of time, even small contributions can grow into surprisingly large amounts of money. But here's where things become more complicated. What if you're investing while carrying high-interest credit card debt? Let's look at a simple example. Imagine you're earning an average return of 8% per year in the stock market. Historically, that's a reasonable long-term expectation. Sounds great, right? Now imagine your credit card balance is charging 24% annual interest. Suddenly, the math looks very different. For every dollar invested, you're hoping to earn around 8%. But for every dollar of credit card debt you're carrying, you're losing 24%. That's not a winning strategy. In fact, it's like trying to fill a bucket with water while a much larger hole is draining it from the bottom. Here's what most people don't realize. Paying off high-interest debt is often one of the few financial decisions that offers a guaranteed return. The stock market might go up. It might go down. Nobody knows for sure. But eliminating a 24% interest charge immediately improves your financial position. Now, that doesn't mean you should never invest. The goal is balance. But if you're carrying expensive debt, focusing on paying it down may provide a better financial outcome than chasing uncertain investment returns. Look, sometimes the smartest investment isn't buying another asset. It's removing a liability that's quietly working against you every single day. Now we've arrived at what might be the biggest financial trap of all. And interestingly, it's not a specific product, subscription, investment, or purchase. It's something much bigger than that. It's lifestyle inflation. This is the hidden force behind many of the financial struggles people experience, even when their income continues to grow. Think about it. Someone gets a raise at work. A few months later, they upgrade their car. They move into a more expensive apartment. They start eating out more often. Maybe they begin purchasing higher-end products because they feel they've earned them. And to be fair, they probably have. But here's the problem. As income rises, expenses rise right alongside it. So despite earning significantly more money than before, their financial situation barely improves. Here's what most people don't realize. Making more money doesn't automatically make you wealthier. Keeping more money is what creates wealth. Let's imagine two people. The first person earns $70,000 per year and saves 20% of their income consistently. The second person earns $150,000 per year but spends nearly everything they make. From the outside, the second person may appear far more successful. They drive a nicer car. They live in a bigger house. They take more expensive vacations. But financially, the first person could be building wealth much faster. This is where it gets really interesting. Many people spend years trying to increase their income while completely ignoring their spending habits. Yet spending habits often have a much bigger impact on long-term wealth. Look, the goal isn't to avoid enjoying life. The goal is to prevent your lifestyle from expanding every time your income does. Because financial freedom isn't determined by how much money flows into your life. It's determined by how much of that money stays with you and continues working for your future. So let's bring everything together. Throughout this video, we've talked about phone upgrades, extended warranties, expensive gym memberships, subscription overload, furniture debt, oversized homes, status purchases, lottery thinking, high-interest debt, and lifestyle inflation. At first glance, these seem like completely different financial topics. But they're all connected by one simple idea. Most people don't lose wealth because of one catastrophic decision. They lose wealth through hundreds of small decisions that feel harmless in the moment. That's what makes these financial traps so dangerous. They don't look like mistakes. In fact, many of them look completely normal. Everyone upgrades their phone. Everyone signs up for subscriptions. Everyone wants a nicer car, a bigger house, or the latest version of something. But here's what most people don't realize. Normal financial behavior often produces average financial results. And average financial results are exactly why so many hardworking people remain financially stuck year after year. Look, building wealth is rarely about finding a secret strategy. It's rarely about discovering the perfect investment before everyone else. And it's definitely not about getting lucky. Real wealth is usually built through discipline, patience, and intentional decision-making. It's choosing long-term freedom over short-term satisfaction. It's understanding that every dollar you spend today is a dollar that can no longer work for you tomorrow. This is where it gets really interesting. Small decisions compound just like investments do. The subscription you cancel, the debt you eliminate, the unnecessary purchase you avoid, the money you consistently invest. Individually, they seem insignificant. But over years and decades, they can completely transform your financial future. So if there's one lesson I hope you take away from this video, it's this. You don't need to make perfect financial decisions. You simply need to make slightly better decisions more consistently than the average person. Because financial freedom isn't built overnight. It's built one decision at a time. And the best time to start making those decisions is today.